Gonna try and go live on Instagram as usual.
We are live.
We're live on the regular, on all the other streaming platforms. Instagram has to be wonky for some reason.
Always.
And
patient with us for a second while we try to.
Oh, guess what, you guys? You are live
on Instagram. Welcome to Instagram followers.
Wow.
First, good job, Susan, in the background. So we're gonna go ahead and give her that credit. So hello. I am super excited. I'm Veronica with SWI. I'm in our Casper, Wyoming location, and we have a couple ladies on here. Makayla, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Makayla, and I am the social media marketing and manager for High Point Companies out of Colorado. And then Tiff.
I am Tiffany Stewart. I'm in Idaho. I wholesale fence material around the nation.
Nice. Tiffany, and I just have to give a shout out because you were roofing today.
Yeah, well, it's bad timing because I saw a post in one of the fence groups this morning that said, now everyone's going to go out and start a roofing company. And I happen to be roofing. But, yeah, I'm just fixing my mom's roof so that it has a long life.
Wow, like good for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. My mom needs a new roof. She's calling someone else. Well, she lives in Las Vegas, so that's one thing. But
yeah, that would be pretty. I mean, it's springtime in Idaho, and it was hot up there. You know, I can't imagine. I don't get it done in a specific window. Just
then you're in trouble. So let's go ahead and start tonight because I'm actually super excited about this. This is the benefits of the Q&As that we do every single week. So I guess per se, you can say it's a Q&A about Q&As. Because like I have some questions and really want to address why we feel this is important and, you know, the participation that we're looking for going forward. We kind of came into this with the mindset of let's answer questions of what other women in the industry have. This is what this group is about, and the women of FWA has come together. It's to support each other and to answer some questions and to be there. Hello to everybody jumping on. Make sure to link your StreamYard so we can actually see who's commenting. Would be extremely helpful. Let's talk. So I guess let's get started with this. Tiffany, I know that you actually often tune in to our Q&As or catch them on the replay. Out of all of the ones that you've watched, what's one of the biggest things that you've taken away?
You know, that's an interesting question. Sure wish I'd been on time to our, hey, the questions we're going to go over today are. You know, I don't know. I love the conversations about employee retention, even though I'm not particularly in that space. I do have a team of independent salespeople that work with me on the outbound side of things. So although I've always encouraged people who would potentially be my employee to instead be a business and work with me in that fashion, I get the importance of building a team, strong team, you know, and then keeping them around because there's a lot of opportunity out there and people are hungry. Absolutely. So, you know, that was probably one of my favorite topics. I'm looking forward to all of the topics to come. And that's one of the things I was going to say is, you know, highly important about hosting these Q&As is that not only does it allow that participation level engagement instead of just, hey, I'm going to watch this while I'm also thinking about 20 other things going on in life. It allows the audience to really kind of help us develop the direction that we're going to take things. There's that age-old saying that 2 heads are better than 1, 3 than 2, and so on. So in this case, we're asking the industry, you know, put your heads in, say something, help us make sure that we're bringing the highest level of value pertaining to what's going on with you now in the industry. So I really think they're invaluable.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we're constantly saying is just because SWI does something a certain way or another company does something a certain way, that doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. We're constantly learning. One of the things, if you ever watch Mark Olson's YouTube channels, he tells you that our best ideas were stolen. We have taken them from somewhere, and some of them we've evolved into something else, but the basis of it came from somewhere else, and we're all about sharing that. So absolutely. And being involved and commenting, I do have to give a quick shout out to Josh Rand. He's one of our biggest supporters on here. So hi, Josh. I do see your comment down there. So what about you, Makayla? You have done a few of these lives with us. I do have to give a shout out to you. She is handling a lot of our regular social media posts for the women of FWA, and we love and appreciate that. But out of the ones that you have either been a part of or that you've watched, what is something like the biggest thing that you've taken away?
You know what? I think to start off, just like the basics, right? I was kind of thrown into the whole social media for the company and didn't really know a lot about anything, to be honest. So
Right.
I've been learning along the way. So the basics, the basic Q&As where you guys just kind of break it down. I really like those. I take a lot away from those. And then the ones where you get to know the women who are involved of like with the Q&As. So the motherhood one, I really enjoyed that one. And I think we have another one next week. I think it's the right working motherhood.
Yes, I believe that is next week.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that one. You get to know all the ladies, and it's fun putting like a face and a voice and a name to, jobs, and I do this and I do that. Company culture was another one I really liked. We took a lot of feedback from that one, and I think put it into our own company where it's been really beneficial. And the guys seem, way happier and wanting to work. Not that it was bad to begin with, but it's just a group now, everyone's not out doing their own thing. It's all, way more uniform. So I think those are my top 3.
I really love when we get into this work mom balance. I always make the joke that I'm the work mom and I'm the mom that works. So trying to be able to balance those, and, in my position, my phone's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it doesn't matter if you're my biological children or if you're a part of the SWI team. And so having these conversations, it just really kind of hits, because this has been something, that I've obviously been doing for years, and different tips and tricks and different things that we do. And not all of us have the opportunity to turn off our phone at 5 o'clock. You just don't. And sometimes it's a matter that you still got crews out. I have received phone calls at 4 a.m. With trucks broke down on the side of the highway. That's just, what am I doing at 4 a.m.? Sleeping most of the time. Sometimes I'm working, but for the most part, but these are all balances and struggles that all of us kind of go through. And it's almost comforting and reassuring that you're not, again, the only person on this deserted island all by yourself, and nobody understands. Nobody can relate. Nobody can speak your language. Nobody knows how demanding certain things are unless you're in it directly. So I absolutely love that. So Tiffany, one of the things that Women of FWA does that's a little bit different is when you tune in to these lives on Tuesday, you're kind of seeing new faces. You're not seeing the same person every single week. Do you think that's really beneficial? Do you think that we're kind of on the right path to do things that way? Or do you think it would be better for us to stick to one person every week?
I definitely think that bringing outside specialists in and getting that fresh perspective on different parts of things is critical. For one, right? There's only so much time in the world. As much as I wish I knew everything because I had the time to learn everything I wanted to learn, there's just no way. And I'm not even a parent. Just throwing that out for your mom talks. You moms are crazy people. I don't know how you do anything, because I feel like I can barely keep life moving how it's supposed to without kids. So that's insanity. But on that note,
We all
I
are
don't feel like I have time, even as a non-parent, to do everything I want to do, to learn everything I want to learn. And then even when you start drilling into something, typically it's layers of information. So you think like, oh, hey, I'm going to learn about this rock. But then there's 27 different minerals in the rock, and all the different minerals have different components that make them up. And you realize, you can spend I spent 7 years just studying business structures. So the way that I have kind of felt about it is the more that you collaborate, the more that you bring in different professionals with different focuses, the more you're able to kind of share that experience and have a shared knowledge or a shared, experience base. Because if you're trying to do it all yourself or understand everything yourself, it's just not going to work. So even with a small group of people, and any team that I've had, we've always brought in somebody every once in a while for a special training or a special something, because you don't want there to be like I don't want to say staleness, but that's what the word that comes to mind. It feels like things can get stale if you're just bouncing the same perspectives around the room when there's, so many fish in the sea, so to speak.
1000%. And I am so glad you said that. Because we've had some conversations on these lives that we're talking about two different aspects here, right. Two different point of views, and neither, during the conversations, nobody's saying you're wrong, you have to do it this way, but we're throwing it out there that, there are companies that agree with this aspect, and there's companies that agree with this aspect, or, whatever the topic may be, and to get that diversity. Or it would just be called, whatever fence show. That's not what I meant. Like, ABC Fence Company, and this is their show just strictly about how they do that. And I know there's a lot of other people in the industry that do these podcasts and do these Facebook Lives. And that's something that's super important, is to actually, ask other contractors how they're doing things, or different vendors, and get that information out there, because especially in this industry, there is a lot of diversity on how things are done. I always say that point A and point Z on a contractor aspect is the same. It's exactly the same, A and Z. Now, how all of us get there is so different. And again, some of our best ideas came from other contractors and other conversations, and being transparent, and then us adapting it into what works for us. So, Makayla, do you agree with the diversity, with the new face on the screen every week? Like, do you sitting there tippy tapping on Tuesday going, I wonder whose face is going to be on the Facebook Live this week? Because I'm a part of this group, and sometimes I do that.
Yeah, no, totally. Agree with everything Tiffany said. I think there's so much to learn from other people. So I think we definitely need to get some new faces up in here, asking them questions. It's not scary, I promise. It's fun.
So I'm going to actually call out Lauren, so that way Makayla and Andrea can help me out here. On top of everybody else that's on this live, is I'm actually trying to get Lauren, which is Makayla and Andrea's mother-in-law, to do a Facebook Live with me, and she's terrified. And I said, listen, when you're looking at the screen, it's just you and that one person. Like, you can see some of the Facebook comments pop up, or you can decline it and wait for somebody to post on the screen. In this case, this week, it's Susan behind the scenes. So she has some great questions about some federal projects, and some prevailing wage and certified payroll reports. And Cole and Dalton had put her in contact with me. And so, of course, she has my cell phone number, and I'm always willing to help. But there's other women out there that are having these same questions, or kind of tippy-toeing into this water. And so to get that, new perspective versus myself, who's been doing this for a long time, you forget that it's not second nature. And that is one of the things that I absolutely love about these Q&As, is there's some stuff that you just think you do it so long, you're like, everybody knows what, setting 10-foot centers is. And then we have Susan come in, and Susan's like, what in the world is a 10-foot center? So it kind of has us, back up a little bit and start fresh. And it is probably one of the things that I enjoy the most out of these Q&As every week is being able to completely, Susan, I know things. And Susan learned about, centers and stringers on these Q&As. So it seems like there's always information to take away from this on all different levels of the spectrum.
Well, I think you touched on something really important there, that it's not just the diversity of people who are coming into the panel to discuss something. It's the diversity of people who are engaging, as an audience. Because, for instance, we tried to teach our entrepreneur strategy to high schoolers once. And I'm thinking, like, we spent months preparing for our first focus group, thinking, like, we're really dialing this back. We're making this so easy. But being 7 years into it at that point, even dialed back, there were so many questions that came from that group of people who have not even a perspective about the world quite yet, right? So having our users and our engagers not just come and watch, but invite people, even if they're in a different level than you, even if you're like, hey, this may not be just for them, because I'm at this point where I'm networking and I'm listening to things and I'm growing. They're not there yet. You really never know. And their fresh perspective can bring a lot to what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
1,000%. I'm not sure who this is, but thank you. 1,000% is that we're here to answer the questions and to give the information based off of what is needed and what is wanted and what the questions are. So getting involved in these Q&As is crucial, because I would bet anybody out there $100 that if you have the question, there's 5 other people that have the question as well. And that's when these Q&As really started, is the leadership team got together and I was like, okay, am I the only one that seems to get the same 5 questions over and over and over and over and over? And they're like, oh no, like Susan on a vendor side, or, these different parts. And they're like, no, these are the 5 questions I get. And, Julie from Fence Cloud and Jen from Fence Cloud, what are your top 5 questions? Not necessarily on your software, but just in general. And man, they could blurt those out in no time. And so then I was like, okay, we're onto something here, as a thought on doing these Q&As and asking not only the women of FWA, but also the men in the fence industry as well. We won't call out some names. There's several in the industry that have my phone number, and they're not afraid to call and say, hey, I got a question. And, I usually write those down and use them for future Q&As. So absolutely, please get involved. It is not that scary. As Andrea said that, she told Lauren it's not that bad. You really look at a screen. I'm looking at a screen right now, and it literally is the same screen that everybody in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok world is looking at. You don't see how many viewers are on there or how many people, are tuning in or tuning out. Oh, and you see a little clock of how long you've been live. So it's not scary. We're here to have a good time. We're here to laugh. And to break it down even further, or to go further down a rabbit hole. So, Makayla, we've had some Q&As that have been like multi-part. How do you feel about those?
I think they're great. I think if you can expand on the topic more than once, there's just so much more to learn about that topic. And I think the ones that we have planned that will be a multi, Q&A, I'm really excited for those ones.
Yeah. So one of the things before we jumped on a live, Tiffany, Makayla and I were chatting about is company culture. This is company culture to SWI and to myself, even personally, and is a topic that we could probably talk about every single week for probably 5 years straight. Now, are we going to do that? No, because that's just No, that's not what we're here for. But it's really something, and there's so many different levels to company culture. Yadira and I did a live not too long ago about having hard conversations. That ties back to company culture. It's kind of its own little thing and its own little challenge that everybody has. I don't know one person in this industry, even the spouses and the wives and the sisters that are, support, that haven't had to have some hard conversations or overhear some hard conversations or provide their opinion on how to approach said conversations before they've even happened. But it's, there are so many different parts, and we can go down rabbit holes all day long. And eventually you tune it out. I personally don't want to sit down and watch an hour Facebook Live. Although how many of the faces in this industry I absolutely love and adore and would love to see you all the time. My time's limited. I have kids and a spouse at home that, likes to see me too, not with my phone like this. So So we're going to kind of wrap this up. But I want to get some information out there. And I don't know why my name isn't showing up. I run a podcast on StreamYard. Here for the good time. What do we got going on here? We're talking about the benefits and why women of FWA do Q&As. Okay, got it fixed. Billy, I like that. Thanks. I'm glad you got it linked. I'm not sure who's yelling my name, but it could be probably one of a few. So let's talk about what women of FWA have coming up on Q&As. We do have a mommy work balance that's coming up, but let's talk about what's coming up in April, because these topics are my jam. These are conversations that I absolutely love to have. The first one is commercial projects versus residential versus federal. You could not get 3 different type projects that are more opposite from each other, and the processes and the amount of time that goes into them and the effort. It's my Josh Glover. I had a feeling that's what it was. Potty mouth Josh Glover is in the house for everybody that does not know. Victor Vasquez, welcome. So we're going to talk about bidding those projects, the coordination for those projects, how to handle those projects, the different requirements that go into those projects. If you are primarily a residential contractor for installers and you're kind of thinking about tiptoeing over into the commercial world, please know that the federal world is different than the commercial world. There is a whole lot that's different on requirements, how much work it's going to take from your overhead staff and your overhead time. So please know that.
And I'll just throw out for your note, that is different on the supplier side also.
Yes. And
all those perspectives.
Absolutely. And Tiffany, thanks for that, because then you get into different requirements and different certifications, and it opens it up to a whole new thing versus letting Miss Jones know that you're going to install a particular material that she has no knowledge about. Then the specs on some of them are pretty intense. So cash flow. This is another thing that I love talking about, because people out there under the impression that, if my AR looks good, man, I got money to spend. That is not how that works. And we're going to get into on the cash flow about what can wreck your cash flow. When all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I'm in trouble. Because there's always unforeseen circumstances that come up. Makayla, have you ever had a truck breakdown when you really needed it to run?
Sucks.
And sometimes you just don't have those relationships like you do with your vendors, where you're like, hey, can I get you on a net 90? So they like their money right away. Tiffany, do you run into that? Because if anybody's got a net 90 with their mechanic, I would love to talk to them. Insurance is another thing we're going to touch base in April, particularly when it comes to general liability insurance, work comp insurance. We're not necessarily talking about health insurance. This is down to what is going to be a requirement to be able to bid projects, and what should you be showing your residential customers as far as your proof of insurance. And at one point, do you share that information with them? Insurance brokers, the good, the bad, and the ugly about dealing with insurance brokers, and some recommendations. If you have an insurance broker, at what point do you look elsewhere? We follow a 2-3 year rule, and then we start kind of looking just to make sure that we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're going to touch base on insurance. Resale certificates. What is a resale certificate? What benefits does it come, and what does it bring? I'm going to see what questions you're asking on the podcast in like an hour. So resale certificates, what are the perks to that? How do you handle that? Do you get involved in that? Do you start going tax exempt and then filing your own stuff for those taxes? And then we also, in the works, I want to talk about lien waivers. What different lien waivers are out there? When are you to provide them? What is the difference between a conditional and an unconditional lien waiver versus a final lien waiver? They are 3 totally different things. They are not the same. Commercial billing, I want to kind of touch base on. Makayla, how much commercial billing knowledge do you have?
None. Do not know. Don't ask me.
And I love that. So,
Sorry,
and
I don't know.
I knew what the answer was to that, but the difference between billing a residential customer and asking for a deposit, and then versus again going into a commercial world. Tiffany, I'm pretty sure you know all about that. And waiting for those commercial projects to pay, and how your contractor not doing their billing right can hold up your payments even an additional 90, 120 days because they weren't aware they could bill for certain things at certain times.
Definitely helpful knowledge for everybody.
Yeah. That's one of those main questions that I get over and over and over again is the material questions on commercial. Another one that I'm super excited about is I declare bankruptcy. Another one that I get quite a bit is internal communication within our team, our office team, and our team in the field. How do you keep that going? So if anybody has any input on that, any of these topics, please comment. Please be a part of these conversations. You do not have to be a woman of FWA to join in these conversations. Men, please jump in. We would love to have you on these podcasts. Please know these podcasts will be hosted by the women of FWA, but you are more than welcome to join. And let's see, Makayla has a poll that is going to come out in the Women of FWA Facebook group tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We're asking everybody to go in and let us know what your role is in the industry. As far
Perfect
as
opportunity for that engagement we were talking about, audience.
Yes. And it actually helps us provide, Q&As that are more particular towards one group or the other. We're not going to leave anybody out by all means, but it really gives us a really good judge. Please, if you do not see your role or position in the poll, we will make sure that there is an add option. I'll go ahead and add, they just badass in general, just so Bailey can vote, because that's Bailey.
Check that.
Yeah. We'll just add badass Bailey so she has her own
category.
So yes, that will be in there. And then we're also going to do another poll in the future once we get some good answers on this one, is what are you needing information on? All of us, we kind of sit down during our leadership team and during our big monthly and ask if there's any topics. If you come up with anything, I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, send a message. I will tell you that text and Facebook notices do not wake me up, so you're good. If you're listening to this and you have my phone number, please do not call me at 1 a.m. because that will wake me up with an idea. Tiffany, if you could throw out a Q&A that you think would be super beneficial for this group, yep, I'm going to put you on the spot. What would it be?
Well, the biased one I would want to throw out is tax and asset protection strategies. You know, a lot of the fence companies I've seen, especially the ones that, like you were saying, kind of just start as residential fence companies and they'll grow into the rest of it later. They set out typically as LLCs without considering the extreme benefit, significant benefit of having multiple entities that are working together to provide the same business in a sense. So that would be one I would love to talk about and have questions asked about. Also, I'm just gonna, since you handed me the floor, steal this opportunity to implore any of you who don't have your FWA fence show booths to start hitting up Susan and or myself, who has thrown in to help her get some of those booths moved. We'd love to get them to you before they're sold out to whoever comes first. So start reaching out. That's going quickly.
It is going to be here before we know it. I travel quite a bit, and I sat down the other day and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. Like, September is right around the corner and Veronica has flying monkeys and already working on what we have planned for next year. So there's your cheese. So yes, the fence show in September is going to be an amazing event again. The first year was outstanding. I know Brian and Yadira and Susan and all that entire team, and I can't imagine it not being bigger and better and badder than it was last year. So I'm super excited and glad that it's not in August. Last August, we actually had crazy, weird Las Vegas weather. But we're hopefully it's cool in September. Makayla, what's a Q&A you want to see?
You know, I'm really excited for the commercial versus residential. I know that one's already planned, but our guys were really into residential, and I think we've kind of switched mainly to commercial, and we do a little residential on the side. So I think just from my point of view, obviously not really knowing about it, I'm super excited to learn and take away everything there is to take away from that one. Yes. Just because I always want to learn more, and I think these Q&As are so beneficial too, because they're short, sweet, and to the point. They're like 30 minutes long. You don't have to dedicate, like you said, an hour to sitting down and getting what you need to know. They're live. If you have a question, just shoot it up in the comments and you could get it answered right then and there. It's one of the things I love about this group. It's like no BS, straight to the point. What you see is what you get,
Oh, I didn't know there was an option to be anything but that. And more than likely, if I'm on this Facebook Live, there's going to be a bad word drop. So if you are in the presence of a child or don't want them to hear that language, please put in your earbuds or listen on your way home from work. That's one of the reasons that we actually go live at this time, is to help with scheduling and knowing that people have families. So Susan is in the back telling us to shut it down. She missed the part where I said, I do what I want. So thank you to both of you for joining in, and everybody that has commented. That's what really keeps us going, keeps the conversations afloat, and I definitely appreciate both of your time. Please, if you have any ideas for Q&As, reach out. These Facebook Lives are posted so they can be rewatched later. So if the red live button is not there, please just comment. We will get back to you. Doesn't matter what group you're in. And thank you, Makayla. Thank you, Tiffany. I really, really appreciate it. I love doing these.
Yeah, this has been fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
And they're not that scary. Lauren.
Well, even if they were, right? Even if you are petrified by stage fright and you can't imagine getting on camera and you know that your face is just red the whole time you're on camera, it's 30 minutes. You know, you can do it.
That's all it is. So fast.
It's just 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Look at us.
all right, ladies, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Stay tuned. We've got another one next Tuesday. So come by and see us.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Talk
Thank
to you soon.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.